So I prepared this slide here, presentation for give you a quick update. I know Raj is also a b56 technical committee colleague, and Craig was here earlier from Ontario. He's also sitting on the technical committee. So if I can't answer, I know Raj for sure could. So just ask him all the tough questions, not me. So my name is Henry Howe. I'm from Alberta, or Northern Alberta. It is my pleasure to give you an update. I have to preface saying this that because the b56 is a proposed standard, Canadian standard, so as such that it is still in a draft document form. So everything is fluid. So if I give you an answer, it changed, it's not my fault. So just thought I'd say that.
Is your name Donald Trump?
What's that?
Is your name Donald Trump?
No, I'm not, my pay grade is not that high. So anyway, I prepared this in, on behalf of IPE. So I am representing with IPE on the b56 technical committee at this time. So that's the logo, and like Fred is saying, look at the logo, 1940. That's when IPE is established. So the agenda today, I'm gonna open with small remarks, and then I'm gonna cover some references, the documents that I'm using to build the presentation, and give you a little bit of background where this originated from, where the request coming from, and how that works. And finally, I will give you, ended up with some, the formation of b56, the original, not that long ago, with a timeline and schedule in front of you to tell you where the project is at now, where it come from, where it's at now, where we're hoping to be ending. So, and then lastly, I'm just going to close with a quick remark, and if you have some question, I'll try to address it. Like I said before, it's a draft document, so it could change. Well, in fact, it will. Some of that will change. So first of all, I want to thank Frank to invite me to, and the BC folks here to invite me to come here to give you, to talk to everyone, to give you an update, and to an honor to represent IPE as well. So B56, like I said, is the first proposed Canadian standard for power engineering. So think about that, the gravity of that. And I've been practicing as a power engineer since 1979, and there are those before me. And I was just telling Nathan before, the guy who trained me on my first panel job in 1982, he was already in his 70s. So, and I'm sure he never thought of the day that we'll get a national standard for power engineering at that time. And so that is monumental for us. So just give you a little bit of background. Also, it just mentioned a few times, there are 20,000 plus certified power engineers in Alberta, and there are many more elsewhere. So when you add them all together, there are very few IPE members. When you think about that, is that important? I think it's important, because without IPE, they would not invite one of us to be at the b56 technical committee. And Raj was talking about b51, b52. You know what? If you want to join some of those, IPE can sponsor you too. You just have to tell them we want to send one of the members from BC or Ontario, anywhere else, to sit in b51 either as a full technical council, a full technical committee member, or an associate member, committee member. So that is huge. They don't go to, I'm not picking on BCIT, they won't come to BCIT and say, well, just send one of your instructors. But however, they would in Alberta for the Pressure Equipment Sub-Council, and Raj probably familiar with that, and there is a seat for a power engineering instructor at that sub-council. So think about that. You'll be affecting a lot of stuff that Raj was talking about, adopting codes and standard, regulations, changes coming up, giving input. So things that will affect those who are practicing power engineering. So, like I said, I am a registered IPE member since 1988. Yes, I'm old. And like I said, myself and my colleague Randy Purves. Randy is from Ontario, serving on that committee at this time. So if you have any question anytime, please stop me. I'll try my best to address. So some references that I'll be using, 4 documents. One, some of you might be familiar with it, some might not be familiar with it. First one, it's a very important document, and I'll explain that a little later. And the second one and the fourth one, they're Alberta specific regulations I want to refer to. And then there's a little tidbit from a early days meeting from SOPIC, and Raj is a member of that, right? Back in 2010, long time ago, 15 years ago, well, almost 15 years ago, in summer. You guys usually have meeting in the summer, right?
In the summer, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a agenda there. I will explain to you the significance of that. Any questions so far? So far, so good. So background, and we have a lot of fun with these acronyms here. So the first one is NAPSAC, and so I try to look for NAPSAC on the website. I think Tom Lemming told me that there is no more NAPSAC. So I said, well, what do they have? They dropped the N. They call it PSAC. So okay. So I look on the Canada.gc.ca. I look, sure enough, and it's about cyber security, that kind of stuff, right? It's not to do with pressure equipment or boring power engineers. So anyway, so they were the first one in 2009 approach ACI, which is the Association Chief Inspector of different jurisdictions. And they said, we want a uniform, coordinated document to administer, enforce the related supervision requirement for running the plant. So that was the ask. So, and then ACI then commissioned SOPI. So now you can see the pecking order, right? Like, so NAPSAC told the ACI, you gotta do this, and then the ACI said, no, SOPI, you do that. So that's why it's in that order. So the pecking order. So ACI said, well, SOPI, form a task force, and you come up with some things to go along with what we're asking. NAPSAC is asking at that time. So 2010, henceforth, is another day that they were the year that where SOPI started going to work. But before that, they said, yeah, wait a minute. ACI exerted their little bit power to the SOPIC and say, hey, why don't you include refrigeration, compression, steam prime movers, and all that good stuff. So that's how we started. So, and how they added up combination of those 3-4 different technologies. Any questions? So, when I show you the next slide, you're going to see what they're talking about. They want a uniform classification. So, look at that. So, from left, that little bar chart, you can see, starting with BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, things look pretty uniform. I even look in the regulations, the Power Engineers regulation in Alberta. And so everybody pretty much the same. Fourth class, 1,000 kilowatt, third class, 5,000 kilowatt, second class, 10,000 kilowatt, first class, anything over 10,000 kilowatts. So that's one similarity between our 4 provinces. And then things go haywire, like bouncing all over the place, right? So, but there's some rationale for that, because later on I'll address that a little bit further, is how we do calculate plant rating. So there's a difference. And some of you already probably know that already. It's not a big secret. So there were the asks from ACI to SOPIC Task Force, and say, come up with a scientific-based formula to calculate plant size. And basically, question number 2 and number 1's the same thing, but just expand a little bit. Number 3 is this level of power engineers. Different, to be in the right size of plant, to be chief power engineer, shift engineer, assistant shift engineer, so on and so forth. And so then at that time, the SOPIC Task Force group passed a motion saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to use the minimum relief valve capacity, which is the maximum steam production, like mass steam flow. Mass steam flow. So generated per hour in kilogram or pound per hour, and record it on the nameplate. For ASME 1 or ASME 4 boilers to determine this boiler rating. So I just simplify some of these, the formula here. It's a little bit written a little bit differently on the original document, but essentially it is based on this. If you have 1 pound per hour of steam produced, the conversion factor is 0.284 kilowatt. And if this a kilogram per hour that you're using, then the conversion factor is 0.625 kilowatt. And based on the top 1 pound per hour, based on the 1 boiler horsepower equals to 9.81 kilowatt equals to 34.5 pounds per hour. So if you do the math, you'll come up with the same factor. And likewise, 1 kilogram per hour, now 2.2 pounds per hour for 1 kilogram, and then you multiply 2.2 times 0.284, you come with 0.6248. So those are the calculations. Then somebody from Alberta put their hands up and say, wait a minute, we use heating surface area, 1 meter square, 10 kilowatts.
Is that British Columbia?
And British Columbia too.
Okay.
Yeah, and Alberta is like that. Guess what? Who is the other 2 culprits? Saskatchewan and Manitoba. I think they're the same, right? So that's why we got the same thing. The reason being, up to 1994. ASME 1, ASME 4 boilers do not have nameplates. They have a heating surface area. So 10 kilowatt is just a round off number. So, and you're gonna look at this, what are we gonna do with that? I think perhaps there will be more conversation for us to address that. Maybe like we were talking about earlier, maybe an ID information bulletin has to be issued. If you have a boiler prior to 1994, we're gonna make an exception. You can calculate it in this manner or some other manner. So might have to make some of those provisions, but the scientific base formula, that's the scientific base formula using the maximum mass steam flow rate per hour or the minimum relief valve setting, so the minimum relief value in pounds per hour or kilogram per hour. So like I said, that's why some of the things that I said to you is in flux. So that's not fleshed out yet. So you can't just say, well, Western 4 provinces, too bad, you're gonna use this in other factor. And so it's not quite the case. But going back to, now come back a little bit on how b56 was formed. So I think, don't quote me, I may be wrong on this, I think it's Standard Canada approached the group one more time, ACI, and said, gotta get this done. And we have this money here, let's approach CSA and get it done. We have a small window. If we don't touch it, it's gonna be a long, long time before we'll do it again, or never again. So CSA took the order and the contract to develop CSA b56. And so keep that in mind when people tell you CSA b56 is a non-profit organization. That much is true, but they charge money. So there's a limit to the budget. So it's not free for all. So if this doesn't work, when the scheduler would say if it doesn't work, it will sit, and if we have no money for it, then it will just sit there. Or nobody buys this standard, that's not a standard. So keep that in mind. So it's not a foregone conclusion. So there's a lot of moving parts to it. So the technical committee officially kicked off in December 2023. So when all the nominations sent out, IP is one of them, and of course the regulator, they get a number of seats, I think seven seats for regulators, and then industry, user, association, we get public, even one of my friends is on there, he's public, but he's also a power engineer, so it's good to have a whole bunch of power engineers sitting there bouncing off sometime, because, and you know what is also very good, when the technical committee was formed, I was kind of aware of that. Everybody is from everywhere. So it's not all Alberta people or all the Ontario people. There are people from Newfoundland, from BC, so what I learned is everybody have their own issues that I am not aware of most of the time. So it's good to be there and learn. So the first stakeholder outreach meeting started in February 27, and by that time we have a whole bunch of meeting under our belt already. Later on, I'll show you on the schedule. And then the second one, of course, it was not long ago, March 13, just recently. And at that time, there was decided right off the bat, we decided not to have a steam prime mover working group. We just focus on boilers, refrigeration, and then compression. And even later on, we dropped compression because the interest and the impact was felt at that time was not worth, didn't warrant the time for us to focus on that. So pull everybody together to focus on the two main topic, which is boiler and refrigeration. So I thought it was a good call. It was just not worth to spend that. The return on investment is not great. So that was decided. Remember the one of the reference I showed you, that document? Well, that was used as a seed document for us to start. So most of you use B51, 52, and so on, so forth. When you look at them, the CSA have their standard formatting. So basically, they took the information and plunk it into CSA format. So the definition is always in section 3, and the reference material is always in 2, section 2, that kind of format I'm talking about. So they plunked it in there based on that formatting, and then we started working on it and populating. Things are not there,